Yeah. Well, we'll start a minute early. We got started with this whole setup that we've been talking about, but we're just to here. We talked about Job a little bit last week. We're gonna stay right here. Did I forget to turn that on?
No, I'm not hearing anything.
I turned it on, turned it back off.
There we go.
Okay, now you can hear me. Get all electrocuted here so I can get started. So now we're going to just talk about Abraham real quick. And we'll start in chapter 12 real quick. We're just going to jump and hit these highlights. We got Abraham. God calls him in chapter 12. In chapter 12. It don't like me. Let me try moving it from my back pocket to this side. Well, something don't.
When you're not moving.
Yeah, I'm trying. Let me move this one further. Yeah. Maybe I got on the wrong. That's a little better. Wiggling around too much, I guess. Hooking me up.
I have no idea. Never done that before.
I don't know. Well, y'all might just have to move up closer, is all I can tell you. Or I'll turn it off.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just gonna make noise.
I ain't gonna. Let's try moving. Anyway, chapter 12. Where did God, how did Abraham get started? Does anybody know? Okay, what law was Abraham under? What was he under?
He was under the good name or knowledge.
I mean, we don't. This is the first time we even hear about God even starting with somebody, except for Job. I might have to turn that thing off.
Yeah.
I'll try talking a little louder. Can you hear me? So Genesis 12, God just picks Abraham out. Now, I'm sure he didn't just pick Abraham out. God probably knew Abraham before he ever even started. But we don't know what he was doing. He was just out. God chose him, said, Abraham, leave your country and come do this. And what did Abraham do? So he said, okay. Now, would you find that a little odd? If God, I mean, to us it would be odd. Why? Because we know God. We've got the Bible. We know how all this stuff happened. He just up and left. Did exactly what God said. Now, how did God do this? I'm sure Abraham wasn't out watching sheep one day and Abraham, leave your country. Okay. You know, God doesn't do that, and He doesn't expect us to do that. I'm sure going to be electrocuted before this is over with.
Just don't get tangled.
I'll try not to. I'm fine. Is that too? Need to be closer? Go ahead.
I mean, right before that, his dad left
Mm-hmm.
and started toward Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what's the deal?
I don't know the order of
Maybe
it.
everyone was just going to quit trying to go after his dad died.
I don't know.
Keep going.
I don't know. I don't know. I've often wondered that, but it says he's told Abraham. So I don't know if Terah was the father. God told Abraham, and he might have been at the age where he's just going along. You know, when your parents get a certain age, they kind of just have to go along with you because you're the one doing everything. You know, although they may not necessarily agree with it. You know, they may not like what you're doing. You know, I'm sure they'll have, but these people live totally different than us. I mean, when you wander around, you really don't have, it's not like we've got the 8 to 5 and 9 to 5. They woke up, they worked, they went to bed. They woke up, they worked, they went to bed, and everything, nothing was rushed and hurried like it is in America, all that stuff. But anyway, so God chooses Abraham. He just picks this guy. I mean, we don't know what's going on. Go ahead.
I want to know, he chose Abraham, but then Lot turns around, so he knows something that nobody else knows, and Abraham takes him with him.
Yeah, I don't, why did Lot go? Maybe Lot respected Abraham, and Abraham had good sense. I mean, God probably didn't choose somebody to try to build a nation out of, to bring Christ into the world, to pick out the worst lowlife he could find. You understand what I'm saying? So there was something going on there. So we'll just, you just have to keep all this in mind. And we go over to 15. This is after, the battle, and Melchizedek blesses him. God comes to him in a vision and says, "Do not fear, Abraham. I am a shield to you. Your reward shall be great." He said, "What are you going to give me? I don't even have a child." So what was that? He was saying, "I'm going to give you a great reward." And what was Abraham worried about? A child. To him, that was a great reward. I mean, the rest of this, and God said, don't worry. And he tells if you read 15, all the stuff. He goes to, he has him do these sacrifices. He has a vision and all of this stuff. And tells him exactly what's going to happen, exactly in order, okay? Then we go over to, I didn't want to skip 17. God appears to him again when he's 99. What do all these things seem like to you? I mean, we always want to have the thing, well, he doesn't have the law. He's got God intervening, saying to do something. Now, this is different than with Noah. Noah, he said, build an ark because I'm going to wipe the whole world out. What's he doing with Abraham? I'm going to make a descendant. In your seed, all families of the earth will be blessed. He's doing exactly the opposite. This was the destruction. And I think this is kind of important to me. I'm looking at the overall picture. This whole thing, we got one more class after this, and it's going to be the short version of the church, but I want you to see, I'm not going to go through, we got to have this and we got to have that, and what all the church you got to sing, you got elders, I want you to think about what is the church in the overall scheme of things, and what is God's idea. But God, I think God took longer to get man ready for God than God had no trouble getting ready for man. You see what I'm saying? How do I drag these people up here to see what's going on? How to live? Anyway, with Abraham in chapter 17, he does the circumcision. This is the one thing the Jews really went, they remembered that part. The rest of it, I'm not so sure they got. Chapter 18 is the key thing to me for Abraham, as far as when God starts intervening with a portion of mankind. He promises that Isaac is going to be born. Sarah laughs. Remember all that. Then in verse 16, This is when the Lord and the angels come and they say, Sodom's getting bad, we're going to destroy it. So they come tell Abraham, y'all going to have a child. Then they got verse 16, the men rose up from there and looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham was walking with them to send them off. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? What was he about to do? Destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And we know Lot's down there, right? And I want you to see Abraham's reaction to all of this. And Abram, since, verse 18, Abram will surely become a great and mighty nation. God already told him that. And in him all nations of the earth will be blessed. So I'm planning something through him. For I have chosen him in order that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, in order that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken about him. What was the way of the Lord? What was Abraham to do? What was the way of the Lord? He said, in order that Abraham will keep the way of the Lord. What was the way of the Lord?
It says by doing righteousness and justice.
Okay, I guess that's it. By doing the way of the Lord. It's like he's got to do my way. Remember, this is 25 years of Pat. Well, maybe more than that. I don't know if he was 75. I can't remember. When he said, get out of your country and go. And God appears to him in Genesis 12. God appears to him in Genesis 15. God appears to him in Genesis 17. Then God says, can I hide this from him? Since he has chosen, I've chosen him so he can teach the people the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice. He's got to teach his descendants this. This is the first time that we've got word from God that, you've got to teach these people. It's not like it's just innate. I mean, how did they learn it before? That's what I want to ask the question. How did you do it before? How did you do it before? How did you do it before?
Word of mouth. They didn't have any books.
They didn't. Yeah, but how did you decide? That's what I'm saying. God is saying, I'm going to teach. He's got to teach justice and righteousness. Well, we know the one thing he did have to do, he told him, was to what? In Genesis 17, was circumcision. This is the covenant. You be circumcised. You to circumcise all your descendants. From all those in the world, you're going to be circumcised. Was that the way of the Lord? Was that what his initial thing was? Was that what he's telling him? You've got to keep the Jews kept it. The Jews decided that was the most important thing, was circumcision. Let's flip over to Genesis 22. What I'm saying is I want you to keep in mind as this stuff is coming about. Isaac is a young man. What does God tell Abraham to do? It came about after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, he said, here I am. Take now your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will tell you. Now, what does God keep doing to Abraham?
Building him up and testing.
Well, he keeps, Genesis 12, you could call it a test. Leave your country. I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless you. Keep circumcision. I'm not going to hide this from Abraham because he has to teach his kids righteousness and justice. He's got to keep the way of the Lord. He's got to teach them to keep the way of the Lord. Okay, what is Abraham doing every time? Doing what God says. God keeps testing him. Why? Well, yeah, getting him ready is exactly right, but God keeps testing him.
Because he's going to teach the nation.
Let's go to the end of the chapter. We remember the story. What happens? He takes him. They get on there. 3 days journey they travel. Tells the guys to wait. Y'all wait here. Me and the lad gonna go worship. And we'll come back. We will come back. Now, I don't know what Abraham thought, but he said, God said offer him. I'm going to offer him. I mean, did Abraham reflect on his life all the times that God protected him here and protected him there and protected him there? He had some kind of faith in God. He had some kind of trust in God. He had some kind of relationship with God. But God didn't hand him a book and say, okay, now you do this, this, and this, and this, and this. Where's the rules? That's what I'm wanting to know. There's not any rules. The rules are...
Kings of Egypt. He said, that's my sister. Well, God said no. So he's already saved him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Abraham lied. Well, we know that one of the rules was don't lie about your wife. We don't know because Abimelech and Pharaoh's the ones that got in trouble over the whole deal. He is mine. So Abraham didn't fall under the same rules. He fell under some different rules. It wasn't, thou shalt not bear false witness. Abraham bared false witness. You see what I'm saying? What I'm wanting you to see is the change in what has happened all the way up to us. Anyway, so what does God say after he tries to do him? He is going to sacrifice. He has his hand up here. He's fixing to kill him, but what happens? Verse 11. 11 and 12. Yeah. God tells him something. God personally interacts with him. He doesn't personally interact with us. He might interact with us, but it's a one-way street. He knows what he's doing and we don't. But here, there's a special thing going on. God is intervening in mankind. And it's with Abraham that he does this. And he tells him what?
Don't hurt the lad. Don't stretch forth your hand against him.
Okay, but let's get the exact words in chapter 12, in verse 12. What's it?
Stretch your hand out against the lad and do nothing to him. For now,
For what?
do nothing to him.
For what?
For now I know.
For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your own. Now, did God know before?
I think he did, but he said it out loud to Abraham then.
Yeah. For now I know. The question is that, it's interesting that it's interesting that it was an angel from heaven that said this.
But God knows our hearts and our thoughts and all of it.
Yeah, I know, but it's interesting that an angel is the one that said this to me. Because what did the angel say? Now I know. I don't know that it's necessarily God. Now I know you what? Fear. Yeah, you fear God. So I don't know. Did one of the angels have a conversation? Say, well, I'm telling you, if you do that, it's about like Job and Satan. You see what I'm saying? Well, you take us, you go out. No, you can't take his son, but we'll see how close you can get. I just find it fascinating,
Well,
Go ahead.
I think it's accommodative language when he says,
Yeah.
now I know. It's other words, now you've demonstrated. It says Christ learned obedience. Was there ever a
Exactly.
time he didn't know obedience?
Oh, yeah, no. But what I'm saying is, but the angel of the Lord called to him.
Yeah, but he says, you have not withheld your son from me.
Yeah. So, I don't know. your son, you fear God, and since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. So, I don't know. I just find it interesting that an angel's the one that's saying it. I know you fear God. Or was it the Lord? I don't know. There's so much we don't know. But I know one thing. God tests him again. Now you would think, Abraham, well, you know, I told him I left my country. I went and but offered the sacrifice and had the vision, all that stuff. I said, okay. And I said, okay, I believe I'm going to have a son. And you know, God chooses all this. And Abraham, what does Abraham do different than probably what most people would do, especially if it was some of us with God and the situation in Sodom and Gomorrah? Burn it down. They're crazy. Why burn it down? But that's not what Abraham does. So Abraham's is a little different than the rest of it. Well, now Lord, what does he say? It just gives you a sense into the character of Abraham, and that's probably that's the reason God chose what he did. Well, the men turned toward Sodom, and Abraham said in verse 23, "Wilt thou indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50. You know, then he gives the arguments all the way down. Now, I know you're righteous, and then let me do it one more time. And I don't know. I'm sure he was trying to save Lot, but he was thinking, well, maybe Lot. Surely they can get 10 of them together. They couldn't get 10 together. So anyway, but God does protect him. I'm just saying nothing, a law, don't kill each other. Job, we see the battle is between God and Satan over mankind. Satan wants to destroy us. God's trying to save us. He starts here. This is the first glimmer of hope that we get, really. Abraham, I'm going to bless through your seed all nations of the earth will be blessed. Abraham was just under the law of listen to me. That's faith. God says, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. All right, we know about that. All right, now let's jump ahead, and we'll skip all the, Jacob is the same thing, and Isaac. And then we get to the end. They've gone into Egypt. Joseph's done all his stuff, saved the people. God did all this through the providence of God, got them down to Egypt. There's an interesting statement. God tells, Jacob says, or Israel, I'm going to go see my son before I die. God said, don't worry about going down there. Don't worry. 400 years. Now, it kind of made me think, well, Jacob, I'm going to go down there and see him, but I'm going to come right back here, but I want to see him. But I'll come right back here. And God said, don't worry about it. They're going to be down there 400 years. The next thing we do in the book of Exodus, what do we have? I mean, it's 400 years later, obviously. 400 years have passed, and we don't know what happened during all that whole time. But I tell you one thing that happened. Abraham was supposed to teach his kids righteousness, and it took with some of them, but it didn't take with most of them. But God remembered his promise to Abraham. We remember Moses being born in the basket and all that business. Pulled out. Gets over. Kills an Egyptian. Sees the oppression of his people. God calls him. So he goes back. He gets the children of Israel out of there. You got the plagues. He escapes. Brings the children of Israel. We'll go to chapter 19. He's before Mount Sinai. Now God saved them several times already. But there's an interesting, in chapter 19, they get to Sinai. God calls Moses up to the mountain. Verse 3. You've seen what I did to the Egyptians. I bore you on eagle's wings. Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice, keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession among all the peoples for all the earth. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you shall speak to the sons of Israel. So he calls them all. They come. God says, don't come to the mountain. Don't touch the mountain. He goes down to the people, consecrates them, gets them ready. Okay, in verse 16, so it came about on the third day when it was morning, and there were thunder and lightning, flashings, and a thick cloud on the mountain, very loud trumpets. So all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now, what's different here than there was with Abraham?
You talking about the one where he wrote the tablets?
No. That was just
I got
what.
lost for a minute. I forgot what you said.
And 19.
Okay.
In 19, and about the first 17 verses, but anyway, 18. What is different here? In verse 17, and Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. What's different here, or what's different here than is here?
It's all the people.
It's all the people. Before it was Abraham. It was Isaac. It was Jacob. God spoke to those single individuals, trying to get them here. Now, he's got them all herded up, every one of them, at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai, in verse 18, was all in smoke because the Lord descended upon it in a fire, and its smoke ascended like the smoke of the furnace, and the whole mountain quaked violently. When the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him with thunder. And the Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Go down, warn the people, lest they break through to the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And also let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves, lest the Lord break out against them." And Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou didst warn us, saying, set bounds about the mountain to consecrate it." So what God say? Go down, warn them. Oh, I warned them. We put boundaries out there. You don't have to worry about a thing. God knows better than that. Then the Lord said to him, "Go down and come up again, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break forth upon them." So Moses went down to the people and told them. Then what does God do? He told the people. Now these people are standing here. There's the mountain. There's the thunder. You can see it right here. The whole world is quaking like an earthquake, and God's speaking. Now, what did he tell the people? Yeah, and God speaks these words. It wasn't just Moses on top of the mountain. You taking the Ten Commandments. He was probably taking all the other, how to build, all the rules and regulations. The people were standing right there. God gives them the first one. "I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery." So what does God do? Introduce himself. "I'm the one who did it. You shall have no other gods before me." What did they have? They had every god there was. They drag around with them. I do not understand it. What was in people's heads to get where they didn't understand it?
400 years in an idolatrous land.
Well, a whole history of it. 400 years in an idolatrous land. Abraham, I mean, he served God, but what remember? Rebecca sneaking out of Laban's place, they went, and she's sitting in a tent, says, excuse me, she stole his idols. She stole his gods. Remember when Jacob was going to go worship, God told him to come worship, he made them take off what? Their earrings, put away their gods, and he buried them under a tree so we could go see God. Worship wasn't the problem. The problem is, what were you worshiping? And it's the same always. You make up your own God. You are God. You are God. Unless you give up to God. And then you still got to struggle. If you don't believe it, look at Romans, or is it Romans 7 where Paul has such a problem? Anyway, he gives all of these things. Was there a problem with, you shall have no other gods before me? Well, we know they had a problem with that. That would not necessarily be intuitive, would it? Would it be intuitive to know who God is?
It is now, since he spoke to them, but not before that, they didn't know him.
I mean, and for mankind in general, is it intuitive to say, well, I know I look up at the stars. Well, do I worship the star god, the moon god, the sun god? No, I'm worshiping the God that made it all. You know, the people didn't do that. God had to pick it out to bring it to you. He had to get himself to man. You shall not make for yourself an idol or any likeness, what is in heaven above, on the earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity on the fathers, on the children, on the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands and to those who love me and keep my commandments. So what's he say?
Serve only God.
There is a change going on here. Yeah. I'm real. That it. If you want to not have iniquity passed on to you and punishment for generations, keep my commandments. Then what does he say? You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. The 7th day is for rest. Honor your father and mother. Did they not honor their father? Was that not something that you knew to do instinctively? Well, you would have thought so, but of course if you were in a siege and you were hungry and you had a baby, you just eat it. I mean, we studied that on Wednesday night. I'm telling you, it's God to get it to us. It was a job. Honor your father and mother. You shall not murder. Now, do you think, under normal circumstances, of course, we can't think before, would you think that would be a good thing to do? Murder somebody? No. Why do you have to have a law? What happens when there is a law?
It can be broken. It's made to not be broken. You can't break a law if there's not one.
Well, the you shall not murder was still back here with Noah. That's where it started.
And it's kind of interesting, the one that he just said that to, what did he do to the Egyptian? As far as I know, the Egyptian was not guilty of murder.
No, I wouldn't think so. He was beating him. He might have needed to be knocked in the head or something, but I don't. Maybe he overknocked him or something. I don't. But you shall not commit adultery. You would think that would be something that you could do without, you wouldn't even be thinking about it, wouldn't you? We would. Evidently they didn't. And God's been watching the world since before here. So he gives you a law. Now, and it gets more specific later on. You shall not steal. Wouldn't you think? I don't like my stuff stolen. Why would I steal somebody else's? Why do you have to give a law? Oh, you got punishment before. I guarantee you, if you stole somebody's stuff, they're going to punish you. It might not be just punishment, but it happened. You see what I'm saying? God, do you see the change that is happening? God is introducing standards, a law. Before it was what? It was my conscience. It was up to me. And I tell you, I'm a terrible person to decide what's right and wrong. There is a progression through the Bible, and you're going to see it. God, he keeps going. So he's given the law. All the people are listening to this until, you shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet. Let me go down. He's saying all of that stuff, but I want to catch the one verse. The people, verse 18. And all the people perceived the thunder and the lightning and the flashings and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood at a distance. Then they said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But let not God speak to us, lest we die." They were pretty smart on that. What did God do to Abraham? He spoke directly to him. He spoke to Moses. God is making an impression that what law I am giving you is extremely important. So you have the earth shaking. You have thunder. You have these people standing there scared to death hearing this, but they don't want to hear it. Moses, we're going to listen to you. So the thing is, do you really want to come face to face with God? Do you really want God speaking to you like this? And that might work even if they listened. But what was the problem with all of that? God is not going to do that from now on to everyone. So he has him write this stuff down. Isn't that beautiful? But he writes down stuff that people should have known to start with. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, you asked, shouldn't you know this? This is, Paul in Romans brings up this exact same list of commands that you're giving right now. Under this heading, he who loves another has fulfilled the law. And then he spits out all those commands and he says, and if there's any other commandment, all of them are summed up in this saying, you shall love
your neighbor as yourself. Exactly. The problem is, how do you get mankind to the point where they would listen to Christ? What was John the Baptist? We'll jump way ahead. What was John the Baptist? What was his job? Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. They had been trying the law. What happens? We've been studying we studied the judges. What happens?
They do good, then they go back. Do it back.
Roller coaster city. Of course, that's the way we all do sometimes. You kind of want this. You don't want that. But here God is actually introducing in your face, do not murder. Now, what was it with Cain and Abel? What did he say to Cain?
Sin is crouching.
know why your countenance is falling, but I'm telling you, sin is right there. And its desire is for you, but you got to get a hold of it. You got to be the master. Now, the question is, can you be the master of good and evil always? And the answer is no, you can't. So God brings man dragging all this stuff, starting, I'm going to bless you. All the nations are going to be blessed through you, Abraham. And I'm talking to you directly, and I'm, expecting you to do some righteousness and justice and teaching your kids something. It doesn't work. He gives the law. It really doesn't work. Because if you have a law, before you weren't a lawbreaker. Sin was in the world, but it's not imputed. Sin, what is sin? Missing the mark. Well, you can miss the mark in 100 ways, and it, unless if you're shooting at somebody coming at you with an arrow, if you missed it might be a bad deal. But you can mess up a lot in life, and, if there's no law against it, is it really wrong? It is here, because you got the knowledge of good and evil. And that's always been the problem. Anyway, he gives the law. We see the prophets. What do the prophets teach all the time? All the time. I got 2 minutes. No, I'm not going to get on this. Then we're going to get to the church next week. It's going to be really fast, unfortunately. The prophets. What were the prophets always doing? Come back to God. Come back. You're going the wrong way. You got the law. You know you're not supposed to do that. Whoa. Come back. Come back. Don't go. Come back. Keep coming back. I've actually given you the written word. I've given you actual commandments. Follow those. Follow those. Follow those. And what's the problem with law? Once you break a law, what? You're guilty. Yeah, it's easier to break, but you're guilty. You're guilty. So what's your remedy? Moses gave a little remedy. What was it? Sacrifice. Oh, next year. Oh, got to sacrifice. Oh, next year. Got to sacrifice. I'm too old and I can't make it. Can you throw a sacrifice in for me? I don't, at what point? I hope I don't die the day before my sacrifice, because I see it's only remitted for a year. What's the solution? What's the solution? Before it was up to me, and I lived however I wanted, and the world was a disaster. God says, just don't kill each other. Then, we see Job that what's really going on is you don't know what God's doing. There's a battle going on. There's a spiritual battle going on, and you're in it. If you want to succeed, you follow God. God chooses Abraham, and he starts it. Then he gets Moses and says, okay, we're going to write it down. Maybe you can do it if we write it down. Now, he's writing this down. These rulers and authorities are looking at it, and they got it written down. The people got it written down. That shouldn't be a problem. They got it written down. Guess what? Doesn't matter if it was written down. You can't solve it. That's not going to solve it. How are you going to fix this mess? Grace. Then we get to the church next week. That is 2 minutes over. Sorry.